We decided to get married the summer before I graduated. I had another already married and in Chicago, taking my last 3 credits by 3 incredible instructors at the University of Chicago. What a difference between a real university where research is the main object and Brooklyn College where teaching was the main object, even though there were some people that were doing research. Finished my 9 credits and was looking for a job. Met one of my old professors who was in Chicago working on the Manhattan Project and said, I have a job for you with this man at the King's Hospital who was doing research, and he would be glad to have you as an assistant. So I went up there, interviewed.
Did you know anything about it?
No, I didn't know what was going on. All I knew is I had this friend, and he was directing me to a job, and whatever it was, I was going to take it, because I didn't know anything about looking for a job in the field. Brooklyn College, you were directed towards either teaching, or if you were a girl in the sciences, just laboratory assistant. I never even thought I could get any other kind of job. I was a laboratory assistant, but the level of the work that was done was an entirely different scale than the research that was done by the few people that were doing research at Brooklyn College. This was my instructor from my first course in biology, which impressed with the work I did. So he sent me up to this man who turned out was a Lasker Prize winner, which is the next level to the Nobel Prize. It's the American Nobel Prize in biology, and who had a grant from the government to work on the Manhattan Project. And he gave me a job on my former instructor's say so. And there I was among 5 top-notch researchers, all working on, not all, some were working on the Manhattan Project. One was working on a project that was studying the effects of mustard gas on mice. And one was, I don't know what all the others were working on, because your left hand in that lab was not supposed to know what your right hand was doing. Everybody was so secretive about what they were doing. But you could see, the experiments. One was doing experiments with bacteria. I couldn't really tell what he was doing.
So what did you know about what you were doing?
Oh, one of the young men I knew who was not in that lab, who was in the main labs, took me aside once and told me what we were doing.
You had no idea? You were just thought you were going to go?
I had no idea.
And what did he tell you?
He told me we were working on an atom bomb. That's what he told me.
Well, so what did you think when you found that out?
I said, what a fascinating place to be. What interesting stuff this was all going to be. It was a fascinating place to work. Aside from the fact that we had absolutely no precautions, nobody was watching us in terms of security. We did whatever we wanted. And unfortunately, that was not a good idea, not to have any security in terms of accidents and stuff.
Like what kinds of things did happen?
I was doing an experiment with plutonium. We got one of the first samples of plutonium that got out of up north in Oregon. started with an H. I can't remember these names anymore. The major lab that was producing plutonium up in the northwest. Starts with an H. It'll come. Um, we got one of the first samples, and so my boss weighed them out, and we did experiments with it to see what it would do to different body systems, what it would do to some of the muscle compounds, what it would do to myosin was the one we worked on. And I had all these bubblers, and one of the bubblers didn't work, and it blew up in my face. And we didn't know what to do. We were studying what to do, trying to get clues as what to do if an accident like that happened. But nobody knew, so we decided the best thing to do is wash my face in citric acid. But I must have breathed in some of it. Anyway.
So what do you, when no...
Every place else they were working on the Manhattan Project, they had hoods to work under. We were just working on ordinary tables. We didn't have any hoods even to work with.
Any gloves?
Gloves? No, nobody used gloves. Except, yeah, nobody used gloves. Nobody had a hood. We just worked on tables. And maybe my boss, when he weighed out the stuff, wore gloves, but I'm not sure about that. I also did some experiments for the man who got the Nobel Prize for the original work he did on prostate cancer. And he would send down the prostates he took out. He was a surgeon. He would send down the prostates, the diseased prostates, and my boss would slice them up, and I would run the experiment. So I worked for a Nobel Prize winner, an almost Nobel Prize winner in that place. The University of Chicago is an incredible school. Just the best, top people are there. Was that experience.
So what were the years that you worked in the lab?
43, I got married. 44 to 45.
You
I was on the...
And do you know if any other...
Oh, I don't know what happened to him. I know my boss died of cancer.
What's his name?
Osman Baron. He was from Peru, I think.
And he died of cancer.
He taught me how to make Peruvian coffee. Strong.
Okay, and so he died of cancer.
Oh, I followed them through the things they wrote, the literature. So I know while I was still looking up their names for about 10 years, they were still publishing.
Yeah.
I guess they were still okay. No, there was only one other man that was working. Everybody in the lab was working on something different. There's one other man that was working with me. I was his assistant on the Manhattan Project, besides my boss.
What's his name?
His name was Singer. Forget his first name. And I followed him for a while.
It's just the three of you doing that stuff that kind of...
And the guy that was from Texas, who was the first Jewish football player on the Texas team, University of Texas team, got a PhD there and was playing football. He was the one working on mustard gas. But the others were working on. Kalnitsky was working on something with bacteria, but I never found out what he was working on. We were supposed to not talk to each other.
Really?
Yeah.
You're supposed to not talk to each other after you left?
No. Then.
In the lab?
After everything happened, and it didn't matter. After the bomb was sent, it didn't matter. One of my notebooks, I still have it someplace around.
So how was he doing after?
That was early 45, late 44, early 45, and Sharon wasn't born till something.
Oh.
Chicago. A little mini apartment, just a kitchen, a tiny kitchen, a tiny dining area, and a bed, living room, and a bed that came out of the wall, out of the wall. Remember many nights going to sleep on the bed while High and one of his colleagues were studying French, because High had to pass French exam to get his PhD, and he never took French. So this other guy would be teaching him, and I'd be sleeping in the same room. It's very close quarters. We once had a friend come to visit us, and we all three slept in the same bed. There was no other place to sleep. Chicago was a great city to be in for a couple of years. Freezing cold, but you had to walk across the Midway, which was a large expanse going all the way down to the river of green, not much in the way of trees, but green. And I remember going at 8 degrees below zero across that